Greetings, programs, and welcome back to ArcNeo Reviews, where today I'm gonna take a moment to just kind of gawk and praise one of my favorite figures to come out in the last decade, I guess you could say. We're gonna be looking at Combiner Wars Leader Class Armada Megatron. So, I'm sure plenty of you saw the normal Leader Class Megatron, just giant lump of silver, pretty cool looking, but it was a cool figure. But then this one came out and I kind of lost my mind over it, because Armada Megatron is my Megatron. I'm aware that my first figures were Beast Machines and stuff. I never watched the show though. This was actually more or less the first Megatron that I saw. So, as you can see, tank mode's just covered in detail, armor plates all over it, panel lining stuff, nice big, Decepticon symbol there. Looks pretty good from most directions. This piece in the back could have used not being hollow, but for the most part, really good. And probably the best part of this one is it does actually have rubber treads. So, there's no fake treads with wheels sticking out somewhere. It's just straight up rubber treads that, if this, tablecloth wasn't loose, I'd be able to show you roll really, really well. So, yeah, that's really awesome. Pretty clean underneath even, you can kind of see where the head is. So one thing that actually disappoints me a little bit with this one, you can kind of see the jaws from the front if you pull the head back a little bit. But that was the defining feature of Armada Megatron's, tank mode, was the big claws he used to capture the minicons. So, I wish they could have done something about that. It's whatever though. Turret does actually rotate, which is a pretty nice detail. Because for as much as this guy, for having to actually transform, and the way this guy does transform in particular, you kind of would have expected the turret to not still spin. And as you can see, actually located on him are actual minicon ports. So if you have old minicons, which I do, but they're put away, they actually will peg onto him all over the place. But after a incident where one of them decided to leave its little peg in the middle of this, and having to spend almost an hour trying to get it out, yeah, I'm not plugging them back into this anymore, just because. But, you can do it. It's pretty cool. Missile does shoot, if you actually can hit the button there. Just a really basic red missile, but, it works. It's kind of cool. So, transforming this guy is really simple for a leader class, actually, which is one of the things people didn't like about him, but I don't mind it being simple as long as it works, and on this guy, it works. So, first thing you're going to do is push in the cannon turret, come back here, and just kind of wiggle this part free. It's the best way to put it. Just try to wiggle it free, get it to go up a little bit, and pull these sides out. Spin them around till they click in. Rotate out his feet. Rotate these parts out. Now, there's actually a couple things you can do with these. Give me a second while I change my angle here. So there's actually a couple things you can do with these. You're technically supposed to bring them all the way back and down on their hinges, and they'll peg together. Which, if this was the normal one, I'd do it this way. But I'll leave them here while I transform them, and then I'll put them where I like to put them. Then you'll just come up here and actually split the entire turret in half. fold this piece up, and it will, you won't hear it lock in, but it does lock in to form his, you know, crotch piece. There's these panels here, which this one's a little tricky to get a hold of, but eventually you get to come up here on a double ratchet, you know, expose his hand. And technically you're supposed to rotate this gun around to, you know, keep the missile pit facing forward. I like to just leave it like that because it looks more like a fusion cannon that way. And then it's on a hinge to rotate it out a little. Then flip this up on the other side. Rotate this down. And if you actually can get it to go all the way down, it will lock in. There's two little pegs down there. And there you go. You have Leader Combiner Wars Armada Megatron. And, so yeah, this is the box standard, you know, how they tell you to do it, transformation. I like to just keep these split apart and pushed up like that at an angle. Just makes him a little more intimidating. Kind of fits with, you know, the Armada Megatron a little bit better. So, as you can see, really awesome looking figure. I love that face sculpt. Camera doesn't, but I do. There we go. And since I actually remembered it for once, he does actually have pretty decent light piping. Pretty clean transformation, actually, you know. Other than these two sections right up here, most everything does just kind of fold away and sink into the robot mode, which, you know, is really nice. Most of his joints are ratcheted. As for posability, this arm does rotate all the way around on a ratchet. It goes out and looks really weird as soon as it does because of how they made that joint, but at least it still moves. Ratcheted 90-degree elbow right there. You can rotate the fist as well. It's really tight, but you can do it. Get his arms kind of out of the way here. The side skirt here does flip out so that you can ratchet out his leg into full splits. The front piece doesn't get out of the way, so he can only kick forward that far. But he can kick back all the way. Pretty limited knee joint just because of, you know, rubber tread and everything. And sadly, no foot articulation other than folding them back up for tank mode. But yeah, overall, this guy is still pretty neat, I think, and easily one of my favorite Megatrons. Before I forget, he did actually also come with these two smaller guns. You can actually store them in the tank mode, just in these ports right here that were the top of the turret. So they just, you know, plug in right there. Or, now that he's in robot mode, you can actually take both of these guns and peg them together and have one super gun. So we'll go ahead, give him that really quick. You know, a little bit unnecessary since he's got this on his other arm, but why not? And just for a quick bit of scale here, bring in another leader class, Overlord. You can see Overlord's still a little bit taller. Not much, but some. Though technically Megatron's taller if you count the horns. But, you know. And while I've got this guy here, I'm sure I've mentioned in other videos, and I will continue to mention, the Combiner Wars Leader hip ratchets. What I mean by that is right now, this is the first ratchet joint. We're just straight down. One click out on each leg. And now he's like this, where, you know, most of his feet aren't even touching the ground anymore. And technically they actually are all the way out here, because there's a lot of play in these ratchet positions. So they're going to eventually slide down to the full extreme, and the full extreme has him standing like this. That was one click. So you kind of either have to just have him all the way just really stiff and straight, or have him get kind of weird. But, you know, that aside, it doesn't bug me too much. Yeah, I'm a little limited on how I can pose him, but he still looks really cool. And to be fair, I tend to like leaving him in tank mode just because there's something incredibly novel about having a tank transformer with actual rubber treads. So, I know, I can come off pretty back and forth on my reviews. That's just kind of how I am, because if I focus on one part, I can very quickly start disliking something, but then I'll remember another part and I'll start liking it again. So, think of this, I guess, less as objective reviews. You're just kind of getting my thoughts as they spew forth from my really, really stupid head. So, anyway, thank you for watching and bearing with me, and I will see you guys next time. Peace.